Hey everybody, today we're going to talk about getting ready to bring your chicks, ducklings, or poults home. You want to have everything set and ready to go before you show up with your hatchlings. You want to have your heat plate or heat lamps on. You want to have your food set out, your water set out, so that when you arrive home, and you have that box of chicks, ducklings, or poults, you can pop them right under and set to go because you don't want them to get chilled. So it's important to, if you can, make these purchases ahead of time and be ready. So first thing I'm going to talk about is heat lamp versus heat plate. I've got a lot of years experience raising chicks, ducklings, and poults. The heat lamps is what I use. That was the conventional way. There really wasn't a known other way years ago. And I'm not sure exactly when the plates started being more popular, but I bought my first plate about 4 years ago now. It still runs perfectly. They're a little bit more expensive than buying a heat lamp, but in the case of a heat lamp, you not only have the cost of the lamp, you have the bulbs, which go out regularly. And so you're going to have to continually buy bulbs. And you probably want to have more than one lamp, especially if you're not going to be there all the time. Due to the fact if one goes out, you may lose some chicks, ducklings, or poults. They need the heat, and if that's removed, you're going to have sick ones. They just don't do well if they don't have that heat, so you don't want to stress them. All that said, that's part of the reason I really like a heat plate over the heat lamps. The heat plate has a thermostat on it. Heat lamp is full on all the time. So with the heat plate, you're going to have a huge savings in electricity. With the heat lamp, it's just, like I said, full on, and you're not going to have any choice. There's no thermostat. So it really wastes a lot of energy. The heat plate is also very adjustable. So when I start my chicks, ducklings, or poults, I'm going to start one end on the low peg. You can see these just stick into the side here. And they have 3 pegs. So as they grow and need less heat, you can move them up. So this is the way I always start it. So I've got one end on the low peg and the other end on a high peg. If I have turkey poults, I'm going to have additional heat. And this is a heat mat. It would go underneath. And you would find this, it's generally used for an outdoor dog or cat that needs additional heat in the winter. And what I would do is I would put something under it so that the energy usage is a little bit lower. It doesn't wick the heat away if it's on, say, concrete or on even a tile floor. So you could put a bath mat underneath it or a piece of cut foam just to give it a little insulation on the bottom. And then you're just going to set your heat plate on top of this. And so you're going to have a setup that looks a little bit like this. And with the turkeys, they really need the additional heat. Not so much with the chicks, and definitely not with the ducklings. In fact, the ducklings will not need this heat plate nearly as long as a chick would, or a poult. The chicks will need this until they're fully feathered, which is at about 4 to 6 weeks. So you can expect to be using one of these for that long. And as they grow, you will move your pegs so that it's comfortable for them to stand under it and push their back against the top, which is how they'll warm themselves. I do not use any kind of shavings or straw under this. My preference, and this is from experience, years of experience doing this, is to use the puppy pads, and they work really well. Super easy cleanup. They just go underneath, and when it's dirty, you just simply pull it out, put it in the trash, and you're good to go. And it just works amazing. Another benefit to using a heat plate is that you could put this into a huge plastic bin. That's usually where I start, the youngest of my hatchlings. After that, I move them up to a puppy playpen, and it's usually a soft-sided pen with a zipper top, so it's completely enclosed. And that works great as they grow a little bit older and need a little more room to run around. The other preparation that you need to do is you need to have food and water ready for them. And with chicks, I do not use the medicated starter. It's a personal choice. I like to use flock raiser because I typically have a very mixed flock. So I might be brooding ducklings and chicks at the same time, and I don't want to have multiple feeds that I have to deal with. And the ducklings do need a different starter. Flock raiser is formulated for both ducklings and chicks. Now, if you're doing guinea keats or if you're doing turkey poults, you will need to use a special game bird starter. It has a lot higher protein in it, and it's formulated for game birds. And it's really important to use that. If they don't get enough protein, they're not going to do well. And I can't say how important that is, along with the additional heat, especially with the turkeys. Again, your chickens, chicks, the ducklings, they're not going to need as much heat, so you will not need to use the bottom plate or the bottom heat mat. And make sure that you have water ready for them and the food, the heat plate on, the heat mat on if you have turkey poults before you bring them home, so that you can take them out of the box and put them directly into their new home and their new environment, and it's completely ready for them. If you have chicks and ducklings, you want to make sure you dip the bill in the water and in the food, or the beak in the water and in the food. If you have turkey poults, you will want to do one of two things, or maybe both. Some people put chicks with the turkey poults to get them interested in food and water, and they'll kind of follow the chick's lead. It also helps to put shiny objects that attract them in the water and the feed. Could use a few marbles, a spoon, something else that's reflective. Obviously not something they could get in their beak. And then they're attracted to that and they peck at it. Inadvertently, then they get food or water. And it's just one of those tricky little things with turkey poults. They have to be taught how to eat and drink. Whereas chicks will just go figure it out on their own, and ducklings will too, but it's always helpful just to show them where it is when you put them in the new environment. So I hope this helps. If you have any questions, feel free to comment, and I would happily answer those questions. Thanks for tuning in.